All right, it's pretty late at night, but got like probably 30 minutes before I go to bed. So let's do my episode 3 review. I just finished watching this a few hours ago, so it's fresh in my mind. Nope. Okay. So, first thing I want to say is I'm going to be adding this movie to my top 50. So, if you don't know how my top 50 works, is I basically rate based both on my love of the actual film and like objective quality. And basically, the reason why episode 3 would be off my top 50 right now is because it obviously has quality flaws. However, I've decided that it fits the bill to be at least a 9.6, mainly due to my love of the film, because obviously it's got like direction problems and mainly dialogue problems. But it fits the bill to be in my top 50. But if this list was just based on love, I mean, my top 10 would be like Clockwork Orange, Barry Lyndon, Godfather would be in there, Kill Bill, Dark Knight, Shining. But like, I would say in my top 5, I would put like episode 3 if it was just based on love. So I'm going to put it in the top 50 because we're combining love and quality. Let's see. I'm going to put it right here, is where I'm going to put it. So it's going to take the 41st spot. And I think I'm actually going to take Blue Velvet out. But I'll do that on my own time. I just wanted to tell you where I ranked it. And yeah, so let's get into episode 3. I mean, this movie is episode 3. This movie is, oh my gosh. Oh, there it is. This movie is my second most watched movie, and many people know about me that Dark Knight is my most watched film, but this is definitely my second. And I watched it again today for the first time in probably like 6 months. It's been a bit. I'm doing a whole rewatch, as you know, and making a review for each. And on this rewatch, I sort of just reaffirmed a lot of the things that I've come to love and come to see about this film. But I would say even more this time, like focusing on like the psychology of the characters that I found interesting. And I definitely won't be able to remember all the things I was thinking in my head because I usually have to write it down, but I'll do my best. But going off like my episode 1 review, it's sort of the payoffs of the problems of that film and episode 2 as it relates to Anakin. Like this concept that, like I said, it was a self-fulfilling prophecy that they, told this kid he was dangerous from the beginning, and then he's sort of, in my opinion, he's pushed into believing he is dangerous and he does some bad things. But yeah, let's get into an actual review. What was the Oscar? Makeup, okay. So I will say right off the bat, this film improves on a lot of the CGI from the second film. But still, it doesn't reach episode 1 levels of quality in terms of like using practical effects that were way more realistic, which is disappointing. So one of my biggest compliments to this film and one of my biggest criticisms are the same thing, and this isn't gonna make sense at first. It is one of the most efficient like screenplays slash pacing I've ever seen. So that's a compliment, but here's why it's also a criticism. Because I love this film so much, I wish it was a little less efficient. Like, I wish it took some more time in the beginning before, like, the climax in Order 66 and the death of Mace Windu, etc. And what I mean by that is, if you don't know, they were originally going to do like a whole battle of Coruscant, and I really wish they did that. It was featured. It was featured in this show, not the Clone Wars one we all know and love. It's Star Wars Clone Wars, which was a kind of like non-canon, almost like anime, not anime, but it was like a much cheaper version of the Clone Wars show. Actually, it showed the Battle of Coruscant, and I think you can find that on YouTube. And it was basically this really cool battle where there was like suicide bombings of droids into the, rich people's apartments and the politicians, and it sort of it brought about more of like the explanation of why the politicians were so eager to support Palpatine. Of course, there are other reasons that are obvious in the film, but this would have just further solidified it. But also, like I said, I love the movie so much, I wanted to see more of them and more of it. And there was a bunch of other things like Jedi moments and Jedi deaths, like Master Shaak Ti, who was in a deleted scene, killed by Grievous. There's a bunch of things that I wish made the cut. And I think this should have been the first 3-hour Star Wars movie. I really do. So yeah, this film like opens really, really strong with like this awesome scene where Obi-Wan and Anakin are like moving down into the battle, and they're above a Venator class Star Destroyer, and then they go down and you see the huge battle over Coruscant, and it's like this epic scene where the war has come to the capital, and they go in to save Palpatine, and Obi-Wan is knocked out, and Anakin literally disarms Dooku, cuts his hands off, and this is where Palpatine starts his, manipulation of Anakin to the dark side. Like, going back to that psychology. We have, Palpatine is rationalizing Anakin's darkness within him, saying, "It is only natural. He took your arm. You wanted revenge." And so that's the first little step. And then Palpatine orders Anakin to leave Obi-Wan behind. Anakin refuses, taking him on his back. They escape in another great scene where they crash land on Coruscant. I love the music in that whole scene, where the ship is coming into orbit. It's absolutely amazing. Let me just make sure I'm recording here. Okay. And then another great scene. Wait, hold on. I didn't know this scene was before this scene where he reunites with Padme. I think this is incorrect, but basically, Padme reveals to Anakin that she's pregnant, and it's a really nice scene, and it's really sweet. And then there's this great scene with Grievous, where Lord Sidious is like, "The end of the war is near, General." And then he's like, "Move the separatist leaders to Mustafar." And he also says, "Soon I will have a new apprentice, one far younger and more powerful." And then Palpatine's manipulation continues. He does things that are purposely provocative, both to Anakin and to the Jedi Council. He appoints Anakin, basically interfering with their whole system and their religion and all this stuff. And then he like tells Anakin like they clearly don't trust you, which makes him more, resentful of the Jedi who he thinks are like holding him back and all this stuff. And basically Anakin is refused his seat as a master, but he's given a seat basically kind of like a representative, like not a full member. And he like freaks out and acts like an ass in front of his old master and all the other Jedi masters. And this is when Obi-Wan tells Anakin, like, we want you to spy on Palpatine. And then you have like another fantastic scene. One thing about this film that frankly no other Star Wars movie I don't think actually does, perhaps other than the final act of episode 6, which I've talked about as like one of my favorite moment in all of cinema, the redemption of Anakin. But this movie does this thing where like you can actually get lost in the film just with like some of the dialogue scenes and some of the music and like the creeping doom of the whole story and like the fall of Anakin and the fact that you feel like everything's slipping away and they're losing everything they love. It just feels so beautiful and epic, and I really like it. And this scene is one of those scenes, and the dialogue is great and the acting is great, the music is great. So yeah, Anakin goes to the opera house, and then the Chancellor like just straight up leaks where Grievous's location is, and he's like, Anakin, come closer. Our clone intelligence units, I think he says, have located General Grievous on Utapau system. And then he says, I would worry about the collective judgment of the Council if they did not choose you for this mission. Once again, manipulating Anakin, like basically saying, knowing they won't choose him, but saying like, oh, if they don't, it's because they don't like you. So he's just purposely making a rift between the Jedi and Anakin. And I do really like this scene because there is that manipulation where there's another part where he's like, the Sith and the Jedi are alike in almost every way, including their quest for greater power. And I like this scene because Anakin stands up for himself against the manipulation, like where Palpatine's like trying to say like, oh, the Sith and the Jedi, like it's not like one's good and one is bad, like they're both just power hungry. And it's clear bullshit. Like it's not true. It just sounds true on paper, like if you don't have any context. Like, so, and Anakin's like, the Sith rely on their passion for their strength, but the Jedi are like selfless and they serve others. And I do like that scene, but the biggest manipulation is Palpatine knows that Padme is dying, and I've talked about in another video about like, was he possessing her or how did he have this connection with Padme? But he does. We find out later in the film, but Palpatine starts to take advantage of Anakin's vulnerability, that he believes his wife is going to die soon, and he's very desperate to find some way to help her. And this goes back to his mother dying and all that stuff. But this is the famous line where he says, have you ever heard the tragedy of Darth Plagueis the Wise? I thought not. It's not a story the Jedi would tell you. And then Anakin's like, is it possible to learn this power? And then Palpatine's like, Not from a Jedi. End of scene. Great scene. And of course, it's just like a beautiful, because you see Ian McDiarmid like doing the whole, when he's recounting his killing his master, he's so like, he's loving it. He's like, he could save others from death, but not himself. It's ironic. I actually thought of something. I thought of like two dual ironies to the line where he's like, he could save others from death, but not himself. Obviously, it's ironic because someone that could defy death should be able to save himself. But I think it's doubly ironic because it could be a metaphor for the Jedi, because Anakin says they're selfless. And basically, much like Plagueis, no matter how many people, other people they can help, if you can't help yourself, it's an irony. I thought it was kind of interesting to think about it that way. Every time I watch Star Wars, I see something new in it, and that's why I love Star Wars. To me, it's like the top of the holy trinity of franchises, and without a doubt, my favorite like universe, my favorite movies are Star Wars films, and I just really, really, really love it, and I always will. I bought this cool trivia game. I was in Las Vegas for a few days for my birthday, and I bought a trivia game at one of these stores, and it's pretty cool. Maybe we can play it. Anyway, so now you go to Utapau and another based scene where Grievous is like, it won't be long until the armies of the Republic drop us here. I am sending you to the Mustafar system. You will be safe there. And then Viceroy Newt Gunray's like, safe? I doubt your ability to keep us safe. Anyway, and there's a scene where Mace Windu's talking with Yoda, and Ki-Adi-Mundi's there, and they're all like saying like, if Palpatine doesn't give back his emergency powers after Grievous is killed or captured, and the war's over, then he has to be removed from office. So this increases the tension because the Jedi are contemplating a coup and treason to safeguard like the Republic and the values they're sworn to defend. And so Yoda goes to Kashyyyk, and Obi-Wan confronts Grievous. And this is when basically Mace Windu's like, Anakin, go to Palpatine and tell him that like we've confronted Grievous, and we need to see what his next move is going to be, so report back to me. And at this time, Palpatine goes all in. He reveals his hand. Think of it like poker. He just put all his chips. He comes out of the shadows and says, only through me, I think he says like, only through me can you learn powers greater than any Jedi and save your wife from certain death. And then he smiles, and I just love that scene. It's so good. And if you watch the scene, you'll notice that he's kind of like twitching his hands because he's holding a lightsaber in his clothes, which we see later in the film. So he was like prepared to fight if necessary. But basically he reveals that he's learned in the dark side of the Force, and Anakin is like, you're the Sith Lord. Preparing to strike Palpatine down, he cannot do it. He returns to the Jedi Temple, learning that Grievous has been killed, informing Mace Windu as it says here, that, like, Palpatine will never give up power because he's a Sith Lord. And then, like, Anakin's like, no, I want to go with you. And once again, the Jedi alienate Anakin stupidly. They keep, like, pushing him to the side, alienating him and making him think that he's, like, less than. And then an epic scene ensues where Windu says, in the name of the Galactic Senate of the Republic, you are under arrest, Chancellor. And I do like this duel, although it's not the best in the movie. It's probably the worst, but that's only in terms of the action. In terms of the actual, like, emotion and dialogue, it's actually really good. I love the scene where they break the window. And first of all, let's talk about how badass Windu is. He's, like, the only guy to actually, like, beat Palpatine in a fight. And I love the scene where Mace is, like, has his lightsaber to his neck, and he's like, "You are under arrest, my lord." And then he's like, "The oppression of the Sith will never return." And then, of course, Anakin comes in, the chosen one, ready to decide the fate of trillions of people and decide the fate of the galaxy. Anakin says he must stand trial. Windu says he's too dangerous to be kept alive. He controls the Senate and the courts, echoing what Palpatine said at the beginning of the film, sort of representing the moral decay of the Jedi Order, even though he was totally right. Anakin sees Palpatine's lightning before his eyes before he strikes off Mace Windu's hand in an absolutely epic scene. Windu goes down like a boss and is killed. Anakin kneels before his new master and is knighted as Darth Vader. And another beautiful scene, the Jedi Holocaust happens, which is Order 66. And clone troopers across the galaxy execute their Jedi superior officers. And Anakin is basically commits another massacre at the Jedi Temple where he murders a bunch of defenseless children in a horrific scene. But the scene in Mustafar was totally justified, killing all those separatist leaders. Although, of course, he should have taken them captive, ideally. But I'm not crying over people that, started the war and killed trillions of people, probably, or billions, I should say. And then another epic scene known as the most, what was it? Was it the most charismatic speech ever? Yes, this is a good video. I was sent this once upon a time. I don't know why I remember, but I do. And, yeah. He says, okay, Palpatine has so much aura. He's like, the remaining Jedi will be hunted down and defeated. And then he's like, the attempt on my life has left me scarred and deformed. But I assure you, my resolve has never been stronger. And of course, if you take Palpatine's version of events, he's actually like a pretty amazing leader. Like all the things he did, if you don't understand what he is and the fact that he started the war, he would be an amazing leader. I mean, think about it. He inherited a very weak office. He inherited a growing separatist crisis. He inherited no army. Then all of a sudden, these like people start a war. He's on the back foot. He fights for years. He basically wins the war, and then he's cooed by the Jedi and attacked. And then he promises, new heights. We're going to become an empire, and we are going to defeat the enemies of the Republic. So it's a really great political story if you take the official story as the truth, which of course it's not. Yeah, so basically a bunch of things happen, but they basically go back to the Jedi Temple. They find proof that Anakin killed a bunch of kids, and there's the duels, the two duels on Mustafar and the Senate. Yoda, Palpatine, Obi-Wan, Darth Vader cut together, which is really awesome. Like, definitely the greatest sword fight of all time is Mustafar. But before this, you have the last confrontation of Padme and Anakin, husband and wife, and Anakin and Obi-Wan, brother and brother. And basically, Anakin freaking rages, chokes his wife. Obi-Wan arrives and he stops, showing that like paternal influence still. And he's like, "Don't make me kill you." And then he says a bunch of other awesome stuff like, "I brought peace, justice, and security to my new empire." Then Obi-Wan's like, "Your new empire? Anakin, my allegiance is to the Republic, to democracy." And yes, it's just an awesome scene. And you get the greatest sword fight of all time. You get another great lightsaber duel on Coruscant. Yoda fails. Obi-Wan kind of succeeds, but he doesn't really have the heart to kill Vader totally. He just leaves him there to burn. Anakin, of course, metaphorically and physically goes to hell. He's this handsome young man with great powers who is horrifically mutilated. All his finery is stripped away. It kind of reminded me of, I don't want to spoil it if you haven't seen it, but in season 6 of Game of Thrones, I don't want to spoil it for you, but I'll say a certain character has her finery stripped away. A very confident woman who is powerful, beautiful, confident, and is stripped down to nothing and humiliated. And in this scene, you have a young man, very powerful, the chosen one, supposed to be the savior of the galaxy. He's got a beautiful wife. He's got 2 kids on the way. He's respected. He's handsome. And in this scene, everything is gone. He's burnt completely. All his limbs are cut off. And he's left in hell, basically, on a fiery planet to burn alive. And, of course, he's put in a coffin, a black suit, as a sort of immortalization of his failure. A dead man in every way. Sort of like what Yoda says, like, the boy you trained, gone he is, consumed by the dark side, consumed by Darth Vader. But I absolutely love the figurative and the literal burning in hell of Anakin Skywalker / Darth Vader, or Darth Vader, I should say, and the literal and figurative, like, entombment in the suit, the coffin. And Anakin's first words are like, "Is Padme alright?" And Palpatine somehow knows she is dead, hinting that he probably possessed her in some way through the Force. I mean, I think it's pretty clear that that's implied because there's no way he can know she's dead. Certainly, if Padme's husband can't sense it, it's unlikely that Palpatine would be able to. If not, like some possession was going on, and of course he knew Anakin was dreaming about her death, so it's like she was possessed by Palpatine to turn Anakin to the dark side. As Yoda says, like, fear of loss is the path to the dark side. I wanted to say like something about like Jedi ideology. Like, while what they say is definitely true, like, as like what they are is like people that fight for good and the light. Like, they don't want to have any attachments. They don't want to have like love and stuff like that to cloud their judgment, even if it's a nice thing. But also, like, I was thinking, Anakin is the most human Jedi. Despite all the terrible things he does, he's the most human because their advice to him is like quite cruel if you think about it. Like, Anakin early in the film goes to Yoda and is like, I'm dreaming about losing like someone. And Yoda's advice, he has a kinder advice than some of the other Jedi that you see in like the Clone Wars and stuff. But his advice is just like, let go of what you fear to lose. And while, of course, the Jedi have like a mission and they're selfless and they're not supposed to, be attached to like a wife or girlfriend or friend, anything like that. They're supposed to be completely about helping other people, but also it's just like, yeah, for like a lot of people, they could put aside that, but if you're a human being with like feelings, like, of course you're not going to let someone say like, oh, you just have to give it up, like it doesn't matter. So yeah, it's kind of sad. Like, the Jedi Code, while it makes like moral sense, but it doesn't make it's like very cruel in a way to like personal feelings and human frailties. Like, it just assumes everybody can like put aside all their feelings and just care about being a soldier, basically, or like a keeper of the peace, as they would call it. And of course, that's not true. So that's why like Vader was like pushed, or Anakin was pushed down this like desperate path of seeking Palpatine's help, because Yoda just told him like, forget about it, like leave it alone. But he was never going to do that. Like, that's not what he would do, and most human beings wouldn't do, because it's just too hard. Who knows why God made us so frail? I don't know why. And so yeah, Vader rises properly as the Machine Man. And by the way, this is like one of those movies that's like really sad for me. This movie, Harry Potter, Deathly Hallows Part 2, these are some movies that get some real tears out of me. I always like cry, or tear up, I should say, when it's like, you were my brother, Anakin. I loved you. Or, you were the chosen one. You were supposed to destroy the Sith, not join them. Bring balance to the Force, not leave it in darkness. And then also, like, Padme's funeral is really sad, where she's holding the little necklace he gave her when he was a kid. It's so, like, sweet and sad. I just can't for the life of me understand why people don't like Star Wars. I watched this with my dad, and he just, I don't know, he just won't accept it. He just doesn't like it. I just don't understand it. I really don't. It seems so strange to me. I think it's so beautiful. It's so human. It's like Anakin. That's why Anakin's my favorite character. He's so relatable to me. And I think he's relatable to a lot of people for different reasons. And the whole like universe is relatable and human, and it shows so much of like our own frame of reference in like a totally different world. And yeah, so Luke and Leia go to their new homes, and you get this awesome scene where the Emperor and Vader are looking at the Death Star, and Tarkin is on the bridge. And yeah, that movie ends with Luke's aunt and uncle looking into the dual suns, ending episode 3. In my opinion, certainly a top 5 favorite film for me, but in my opinion, one of the greatest films ever made. And I don't know if it's my favorite Star Wars movie. I think I can't decide anymore. I know once upon a time I said it was episode 5, but I've decided I like episode 3, 5, and 6 equally, and I don't want to pick. So that's just how it is. But this is such a good movie, and it's really just maybe like one of the best paced films ever, in my opinion. Despite the fact that I said that was a criticism because I wish it was longer. This movie, and like, come on, I mean, this could easily be like an extra 20 minutes, and nobody would care if it was like 3.5 hours. I mean, if there was an extended edition, that would be awesome. But it is like a genuinely great screenplay, genuinely great story, and it's the perfect end to the prequels, which I think undisputably is a great story despite its flaws, despite its dialogue problems, despite the problems with direction. They are a great story. I don't really care what people say because they were shocked that it wasn't like the originals. I think these movies have gone on a renaissance, and people have accepted them as like great films and great additions to Star Wars. And they never made another movie after this one, so that's it. Yeah. Is that all from me? Oh yeah. So it's 12:01. We've been going for 30 minutes. 37. Yeah, guys. It's an awesome movie. I almost said I'm with you to the end of the line. That's what I used to say on my show, Cine Show on KUCI. Well, it's been me, Saucy Boy. Saucy Boy out.